and welcome back to Finding Fashion. Today I'm super excited to welcome Sarah Korich, who is the founder and CEO of Infinite Closet. Thanks so much for joining me, Sarah. It's lovely to see you.
Hi, Anna. So good to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, so I really appreciate it. Can you tell me a little bit more about Infinite Closet and what it's all about?
Yeah, of course. So Infinite Closet is a clothing rental platform that specifically focuses on independent, sustainable, and ethical brands. So we deliver everything right to your door, but we basically it makes us unique in that we work specifically with independent brands and help you discover brands that are not available on the high street.
Mm-hmm. So what was the spark point for Infinite Closet? Like, at what point did you think this is what I've got to do?
It's so funny because I really had no intention of ever kind of going down the entrepreneurial the way you say it route. And I moved over to London for grad school. And so I was in the process of getting my MBA. And when I moved over here, I was a big user of Rent the Runway back in the United States. And so when I moved here, I kind of just assumed that there would be either Rent the Runway or a similar business model already in existence, and was super disappointed when I found out there wasn't, because I stopped buying clothes. I was renting pretty much everything. And so my tiny New York apartment didn't have the capacity for, the pretend Carrie Bradshaw wardrobe that everyone thinks is realistic in New York, because it is. Yeah, exactly. And so, so when I moved here, I was doing my MBA, and we had to do a project for our innovation enterprise course. And so that's when I kind of decided to just basically pitch this, and just kind of did it for fun. And at the end of the course, my professor kind of approached me and was like, you know what, like, we actually sponsor students who want to start businesses here. And so this is something you want to do. It was really well received in my cohort. People really liked the concept. And so they were like, yeah, if this is something you want to pursue, you absolutely should. And so I decided to go after it. And my now co-founder, Louisa, was also part of my MBA program. And she loved the concept and wanted to do it along with me. And so we've now been working on it for a little over a year now, and are just taking it day by day. It's been so fun.
It's so inspiring that you launched it as part of like a college university project, because as a former fashion lecturer, like, so many of my students would work on projects as part of their final major project, their dissertation, and then they would go on to launch it. And it's actually really surprising and exciting that so many of these kind of like entrepreneurial, I can't say the word either, like projects like go on to be so successful. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, it's like I said, it was not something that I ever sort of expected for myself, to not the journey that I moved over here to sort of do. But once it started kind of coming into place, I was like, you know what, why not? Like, it's something that's missing from the market here, and it's something that I really enjoy. And sustainability is a big piece of my life. And so I thought this was a good way to sort of introduce new people to the concept.
So when you're talking about the market there and kind of analysing the market, you said that when you moved over to the UK, you couldn't believe that there wasn't kind of a rental platform. And it is a really new concept for us over here. So what were like the pivotal moments in you kind of planning the launch? Like, what stages did you go through?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it was really just figuring out who was even interested in this idea, because it is really kind of a weird concept to think of, like, not owning your clothing. And even in the US, like, now it's just definitely more commonplace, but it's more common even in like larger cities. I would say in most parts of the United States, it's still not something people do a ton of, or if they do, it's specifically for those one-off occasions where you just need like a dress for a wedding, or, something special. And but it for me, when I was doing it in the past, I had a subscription. I was doing it every month. I was getting new clothes basically every week. So it was really nice to kind of have that constant rotation of like new things, but not feeling really guilty about spending money that was just kind of unnecessary, and that like added waste that was kind of coming from that. And so here, the big piece of starting off with this business model was just even understanding, like, would people do it? And so we started, and this was part of my course again, was we just had to go out and interview people. And this was prior to COVID. And so I basically just had to like create surveys and go outside and just kind of awkwardly walk up to people then just kind of be like, hi, like, I know this sounds really strange, but I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about like your fashion style and like how you shop. And ended up collecting about 500 surveys from people, just mostly in London, but across the UK. And that was really at the starting point of us being able to sort of figure out how to even make this concept work. And then from there, it was really the logistics and supply chain that came from that. And all of the really non-sexy stuff that people don't enjoy hearing about, but they're so important into how this sort of even exists as a concept. And figuring out all of those places was just kind of complicated. And now, as we've been doing this, there are a couple other key players that are happening here in the UK, and their models are a little bit different than ours, but they're obviously seeing some success. And I think for us, it was really just figuring out like where our place sort of stood now that there were some other people in the marketplace, and how we were going to kind of keep ourselves unique, but stay true to those ethos of sustainability and wanting to work, especially with small businesses, because that was where a lot of our ideas sort of stemmed from. Was, my business partner and I were kind of sick of shopping around on the high street, and no offense to like the Zara's and H&M's out there, but we were like, I'm just so tired of going to the same stores all the time. Like, where are these sort of cool, unique designers that we should be able to find in a big city like London? And just was really not finding that. So yeah, I think the sort of like big pieces were part of our journey into creating this launch. And so once we kind of had those figured out and figured out who we should be targeting as like an audience, we've been able to sort of string that along into our launch. I mean, we're still pretty fresh. We've only been launched for a couple of weeks now, but it's been really exciting to just sort of see how we began as, a concept on a piece of paper to now a full-fledged business model.
It is really interesting how consumers have totally changed their view towards like rental fashion, because it wasn't so long ago that, even when it comes to music, I felt like, what? I don't want to pay for music that I don't own. And now I wouldn't dream of doing anything other than having Apple Music and just streaming all my music. So the attitudes have completely changed to kind of all subscription services, haven't they? And kind of paying for something that you don't necessarily own, because you actually get so much more out of it, don't you?
Yeah, I think it opens up a whole other world to things that you wouldn't normally have access to. Because you think about it like you were just saying, like when we were younger, we would own CDs, and if you didn't own that CD or the song didn't come up on the radio, you didn't listen to that song, or you wouldn't even be able to discover it even, unless you heard it from someone else. And so this idea of not having that kind of ownership over things really opens the door to opportunities of discovering new designers, new brands, new musicians, just new stuff that like wouldn't be the case if we were kind of stuck in our same bubbles as before.
So you mentioned there that you run Infinite Closet with a co-founder. Mm-hmm. How does it work, the two of you together? Do you kind of work on different sides of the business each, or is it very, very collaborative? Do you do the same tasks?
Yeah, it sort of depends on what it is that we're working on. We both kind of have our own strengths, and that's actually the best part about having a co-founder to work with, and something that I'm really appreciative of. My background is really like marketing and partnerships and sales oriented. And I did that for most of my career, whereas my co-founder is more on the sort of like operations and accounting and finance side of things. And so having both of those strengths really plays along nicely, because we do have our own roles and duties that we fulfill as each of our roles and founders. But at the same time, we do have some overlap with things, and it's nice to kind of have someone to bounce ideas off of and kind of think things through differently. Because if it were up to me, I would just be like, let's spend all of this money that we don't have on all of these things. And Louisa will come in and be like, no, Sarah, you can't do that. And, but it's good to have that sort of like voice of reason. And it goes both ways too, because obviously like with the different ways that we think and the way that we operate with one another, it's really nice to kind of have that balance and have someone to just always work off of. And even if it comes to just being like stressed and anxious and feeling like, oh my God, what have I done? Are we going to fail? Like, why did we do this? To have someone to just like understand that feeling, and also just be able to kind of bring you back to reality. Like, no, we're doing great. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, you are doing amazing. I'm loving what you're doing so far. So obviously sustainability is a huge part of what you're doing over at Infinite Closet, and slow fashion has become a bit of a buzzword in fashion at the moment. What does the term mean to you?
Um, it's so interesting because I feel like, slow fashion, quote unquote, is something that feels really new in concept, but it's really just kind of going back to what we sort of used to do. I think fast fashion, it hasn't actually been around for that long, but it's just become so programmed into our brains and how we operate now that we're so used to just like kind of buying items as we want them, and that kind of feeling of like fulfilling a need that may not always be there. A lot of it has to do obviously with like social media and wanting to be trendy and like kind of that like showing off bit that we often feel like we sort of need to do. But really slow fashion is just about kind of taking a step back and understanding, sort of the supply chain of where things are coming from, and understanding the why. I think of a lot of the reasoning of as to why we shop. I think it's about acknowledging, the sort of processes and resources that are used in creating these garments. Who is making my clothes? What materials are going into it? Do I actually need these items even? Are they being mass produced? And I think just sort of this movement into going back to that, because things used to just be made to order, like in way back when. You would have a tailor that you would go to, or you would have kind of hand sew your own things, and that was normal. That was just kind of the standard. And then obviously the industrial revolution, kind of standardized that, where we could just do things in a more machinery factored way, and that worked to really like bring down costs and to allow more access to things. But then it kind of had a reverse effect where then suddenly things were being produced too quickly, and now we have too many things, and things are kind of just being wasted. And I think that this idea of moving back into sort of a more um, slow fashion movement, or even like made to order personalized sort of experience, that bespoke experience, I think speaks volumes to even more of like displaying your personality and displaying kind of who you are, because you have that ability to sort of take more pride in the garments that you own and feel really happy about buying products that are truly good quality, that they're investment pieces. They're going to last a long time. They're going to be things that are really of value versus just something that's trendy and will fall apart by the next season.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the turning point was? Because there has been a definite shift in our attitudes towards like, pre-loved, recycled,
Yeah.
upcycled, slow fashion. At what point do you think as consumers we all thought, right, we need to do something about this. We need to change our attitudes towards this?
I think a lot of it is younger generations, and I think that there's a big push from what I've seen from the sort of Gen Zers of kind of loving that vintage stuff,
Mm,
being able to shop secondhand, and just being more aware of kind of what's happening in the environment. I think as consumers, we're sort of realizing, and especially I think due to COVID, that we just don't need as much stuff as we
mm,
thought we did. And whether this change in attitude will stay is to be seen. But I think even the feedback and kind of conversations I've had with family and friends has really been like, I'm so used to owning so much stuff, and my closet's so full of things.
mm,
And then I realize I've worn, 20% of the clothes that I have, or something gets stuck in the back of your closet and you kind of forget you have it. And sometimes you re-fall in love with those pieces, and you
mhm,
kind of realize like, oh yeah, I actually really liked how this looked on me and I forgot about it. Um, but then a lot of times too, you kind of just look at it and you're like, no, on to the next. And so I think it's really great that people's mentality has changed around that, and that there's sort of this shift in being more aware of how much stuff you need and the way that we're spending money, and kind of realizing that maybe you don't actually need that sequin vest that you're maybe going to wear once and then realize you probably won't wear it again. But that's where renting comes in, and that's why it's a really fun opportunity to still kind of feel like you don't need to invest a bunch of money into pieces that you will wear maybe just once, and you want to be seen in a picture of it and you feel good in it, but
mm.
just in that moment. You kind of get that satisfaction and euphoria almost of having that sort of like fast fashion process, but then that you're not necessarily consuming it in the same way that you used to.
Mm. And also, like you were mentioning earlier, like it totally opens you up to a whole new breadth of designers, because, you know, there's no way that I would necessarily be able to go out there and afford a £400 dress, but I can afford it for, you know, £50 to wear for the weekend. And it, like you said, gives you that satisfaction.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a key thing that you get with renting, and even secondhand sometimes as well. But like that, it's that opportunity to sort of explore new pieces and still kind of feel like that opportunity of feeling like you have that sense of like individuality. And I think that's a lot of reasons why people want to buy stuff all the time, is because they want to express themselves in different ways. And you kind of wake up one morning and you're like, who am I today? And your clothes reflect that a lot of the time. It's, who do I want to be today, and what is my mood today, and like what do I have to sort of accentuate that? Or, you know, I'm going out tonight and I want to really feel good. What can I wear that's gonna like just make me feel like $100? I don't think it's to say in here, but I'm gonna say it anyway. My Americanisms. And and so I do think it's just kind of a way to have that opportunity to still feel unique and different, and make an opportunity of those special occasions and make them, you know, last in like a digital form with like your pictures and that sort of memory and experience, but without necessarily contributing to, you know, just creating more waste and having access to clothes that you wouldn't necessarily be able to afford otherwise.
Is there anyone that you think is doing amazing things within slow fashion and really kind of representing the market? I had asked this same question to an owner of a vintage fashion site earlier this week, and I said, well, is there anyone who you really admire, who you think's doing amazing things for vintage fashion? And she said to me, you're going to be really surprised by my answer, but it's Kim Kardashian. She really represents really well vintage fashion. Is there anyone who you think does that for, in terms of like sustainable and slow fashion?
Yeah, there's this girl named Ella. She's an influencer and very outspoken about sort of what's happening in sustainability and slow fashion, and not necessarily just only in fashion, but just sustainability in general. But she's been a very strong advocate into you know, the pieces that she wears, and not shopping those kind of like fast fashion brands, and just kind of being a voice for brands. And I think there's a lot of people who sort of feel that same way, and who aren't afraid to just sort of like talk about it, especially on social media, which I really like. And yeah, I mean, I tend to like kind of focus more on like the brand side versus like, you know, the people, because I think that's where a lot of it comes from. And I think consumer attitudes really reflect what is happening, you know, within the industry. And so we're so used to shopping a lot of these, you know, sort of more fast fashion brands just because that's what's readily available. But as you know, as we see more of these brands kind of stepping up and talking about their sustainability efforts, and some of it, of course, is greenwashing, but in general, the more that we sort of make this more of a thing that people are aware of, the more I think it kind of sticks in people's brains. And so, you know, while it's not necessarily key figures in like pop culture per se, and they do exist, obviously, but it's, you know, it's more from a responsible business side of things that I really like to see, like, you know, like Stella McCartney and some of these other designers who are taking those steps to talk about, like, you know, why they're taking these sustainability efforts and things like that.
I think it is quite scary in the industry at the moment, because you mentioned greenwashing there, and so many high street fashion brands are jumping on the sustainability bandwagon by having sustainable, recycled, vintage, like upcycled collections. And it's not necessarily truly sustainable. It's almost used as like a marketing initiative.
Yeah.
Obviously, as consumers, it is really up to us to, you know, vote with our money, basically, and really be responsible and educated about where we put our money. But it is difficult to kind of, you know, differentiate between what's like true sustainability and, you know, what's just marketing. How do you think as consumers we can educate ourselves to make sure that we are spending our money in the right places?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a number of ways, and I think one of the easiest ways that I found personally as a consumer, well, two things. The first one is you don't really need to buy new. That's a big thing. Like I think a lot of times, like we've said, the most sustainable thing that you can really do is to just basically not buy. Now, obviously, we know that's not very realistic. And so that's why obviously we are seeing a big push in like rental services and secondhand shops, because people are finding alternative ways to shop and stop doing those kind of like practices that obviously create more waste. But there's also really good resources out there to kind of help people discover. The Good on You app is an amazing resource. I've used it frequently to kind of just be like, oh, I've never heard of this brand, or maybe I have heard of this brand. How are they doing? Like, what are their efforts? What do they do? A lot of these companies will put on their websites their sort of like green pledges, or their, like workers' rights information and things like that, modern slavery agreements. And, and it's hard to say, are they actually following these things, or are they just saying this? So it is really difficult to navigate. And that's why we really wanted to create our parental platform, is focusing on these brands that are doing these things, because we didn't want to steer people into the direction of thinking like, oh, this brand has this messaging of sustainability, and so therefore I'm going to shop with them, when the reality is like that isn't what they're doing. And while we do see some changes in the industry right now with some of these fast fashion brands, they are incorporating more recyclable material. They are looking at different ways that they can sort of like create more sustainable efforts. But at the end of the day, the levels of mass production that they're still doing are the biggest factors as to the reason why they're just not sustainable. And I think that's something that people can just kind of keep in the back of their minds, is if this shirt is available in 60 different colors and 20 different sizes and 50 different countries, it's probably not sustainable. And that's the easiest way to sort of think about it, is like, if this is massively produced and readily available everywhere, they can say all they want that it's made from, recycled so-and-so. It's still mass produced. It's probably still an issue.
That's actually a really good point there. It's actually asking yourself kind of, does this feel sustainable? Because so many of those, like the really fast fashion online brands, I think any consumer would know in their heart of hearts if something was really sustainable. And it is kind of thinking, am I doing this, buying this hoodie for the right reasons? Or, am I just doing it to tick the box?
Exactly. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that, because, and again, it just goes back to consumer practices and the way that we think about things, because, we have this sort of inherent need and feeling of, oh, I'm feeling down, I'm going to go shopping and I'm going to buy 5 sweaters because, oh my God, they're on sale and it's £5. Perfect. And it's that kind of, again, that instant euphoria of like, it's something that feels good in the moment. But I think it's really about that acknowledging of taking that step back and really thinking through, A, do I actually need this piece? And then B, is it truly sustainable? Am I getting it from someone who has mass produced this? And why is it £5? How can this be £5? Just the money that should be spent on someone who made this garment should probably be more than £5. So thinking through just it's quite logical, but I think it's just because we're so used to having kind of that veil over our eyes that we don't think about it. But it's just something that if we just kind of take that extra minute to think about, you can really sort of process like what isn't probably realistically sustainable and ethical.
Mm-hmm. So looping back to Infinite Closet, because I've got to find out more about the the insider info I really, really need. So as you mentioned earlier, you focus on stocking kind of independent as well as some established designers. How do you curate what designers and what pieces you stock?
Such a good question. And honestly, we spend so much time just kind of like scouring the internet, basically. My co-founder and I basically just spend half of our days like online shopping, which is obviously the opposite of what I just told everybody to do, but we're not actually buying, guys. We're just looking. And so, but what we really want to do is we basically just like look at what's out there, what's unique, and what's really interesting. And Wolf and Badger kind of leads a lot of that pack for us. They're a great resource for independent designers and discovering kind of unique pieces, and I absolutely adore their website. And I'm constantly finding new people even just through them, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this dress is amazing, like who made this? And so really our way of sort of just curating the independent brands and ethical and sustainable brands is we just do a lot of internet stalking. And so, we're constantly scouring social media, and we're looking for, up and coming designers that pop up. We follow, a few different like hashtags and things like that that help us search. We're in just like a bunch of just like groups and things like that where people are just super passionate about fashion. So it's really a good resource for us to just kind of be like, that's an amazing piece. Where did you get that? Who designed this? Tell me more. And so like we've really just taken the time to sort of like just do the work. And that's why I love what we're able to do, because we are helping people kind of discover these new brands that people haven't heard of. And so I've had so many of even just friends and family who go onto their website and you're like, I love that dress. I've never heard of this designer, and now I follow them on social media and I'm absolutely obsessed with them. And it's so fun to introduce people to that, because it's kind of, just gets a bit boring to see people in the same stuff all the time. So it's great to be able to help them discover these new brands. And really, it's just kind of stuff that we like and we think other people might like. And then we have these conversations with the designers, and they're like, yes, like I'm a small business. I want to like have more exposure, and we're here to help you do that.
So what's the process like then? So you've done your online shopping, you've received the order. What's the process like between receiving that order, stocking it, getting it online, and managing the orders?
So we do everything in-house right now. So we have a couple different partners that we work with to kind of assist us with the entire supply chain. And so, when the dresses come to us, we obviously inspect them, make sure the garments are in good shape, everything looks good. The fit is going to be what it's supposed to be. We, take all of those measurements, upload everything to the website. We want people to have as much information as possible. Because obviously with online shopping, that is the biggest risk, is that you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you don't know what the piece is going to be like until it's in your hands. And especially with renting, if you're getting a piece that you're supposed to wear out tomorrow for whatever your occasion is, you want to make sure that it's going to be the perfect thing. Otherwise, you might be in trouble. And so, once we have all those pieces, the customer basically goes onto our website, and it's really just like regular online shopping. You get on there, you can look at all of our dresses and all the pieces that we have available, and you just basically pick what you want, click the size, make sure that our little calendar will pop up that will show the dates that are available for the piece. And as long as it's available for the dates that you want, you just go ahead and add it to your cart, and then we basically take care of the rest. And so your shipping and cleaning are included in the price. We already take care of that for you. And we have a really great delivery partner called Hived. They're a zero emissions delivery service that's here in the UK. And that's why we partnered with them, because sustainability is top of mind for them as well. And they'll pick up the garments from our distribution center, send it off to the customer. It's a nice custom courier service. It'll arrive right to your door. And we have these reusable garment bags that everything comes in, so that, that's also something that doesn't get wasted. And then once you wear the dress, you put it back in this garment bag, our courier comes and picks it up, and then they take it to our dry cleaning partner called Oxwash, who, again, a very sustainable focused business right now. They clean clothes and then give them back to us.
I'd love to come and see what a day in the life is.
Anytime, come on over. It's really fun. I mean, we obviously are doing something that's quite different to just sort of the norm, but we did put a lot of thought into the supply chain, and while our costs might be a bit higher, because we are being very conscious of the sustainable efforts that we're making with it, it was really important to us to make sure that the brands we're working with care about sustainable and ethical business practices, and every partner that we work with throughout our supply chain has that as top of mind as well.
So obviously the resale sites have become so popular because consumers are able to wear like these amazing designer pieces that they wouldn't necessarily get to be able to afford or buy normally. With renting, what are your absolute top tips to be able to track down like the most coveted pieces available to rent? I need the inside track.
I think my favorite thing to do and regardless of whether it's our platform or whatever other rental service you're using, is to sort of go to the designers section of each of their websites and just look up what kind of pieces they have, because everyone's style is so unique. Like for example, Retrofeet is one of my favorite designers right now. They're based out of the US, but they make these beautiful sequin gowns. And one of the ones that we have on our website, it retails for $1,000 somewhere around
Wow.
there. But you're able to rent it for less than £100. And so like to have access to a piece that's so expensive and so gorgeous for a fraction of the price is just such a cool thing. And so with that, I just really love to understand like who I'm actually renting from. And so I love to just kind of go through, see which designers are on each site, and then just kind of figure out like whose style I really like, so that I can start going through and searching for that. Like our website, for example, you can filter by color, you can filter by designer, you can filter by size. We've got so many different features on there that allow customers to really customize like what it is they're looking for. And if you're looking for something really specific, we'll basically help you get there.
So personalization is obviously so key within fashion at the moment, in order for brands to be able to really connect with their consumer. How does Infinite Closet kind of tap into that level of personalization and provide their consumers with a really personal, connected experience?
Yeah. I mean, we have really good sort of like customer support system within our website. And so we always say, like, if you are looking for a particular style, if you are not sure what size you need, if there's any questions about like the material, anything like that, we're really there to help. And we know that, like, especially when you are renting from brands that you're just not familiar with, you kind of have that added level of sort of anxiety where you're like, what if I don't like it when it comes? What if it doesn't fit? Et cetera, et cetera. And so for us, we really like to make sure that, everyone is just super happy with what they're going to get and are really excited about these pieces. And so, we're always saying, message us on social media, talk to us on our website, send us an email, call us up, like whatever. Like we want to make sure that you're able to get the best rental experience that you can possibly have, because we love communicating with our customers and just understanding what they want. And it helps us too, from a data perspective, to understand what people are looking for, so that we can make sure that it is as personalized as possible. And, our website is still fairly new. We do have a lot of ideas on different features and things we want to add to really continue to make that a really personalized customer experience. And as we sort of roll these features out, I think it will just be really great for the customers to kind of just make it all in one shop. We want to do kind of create an entire Closet in the Cloud experience for them, where they can just feel super confident that their Infinite Closet is there. It's ready for them at any time, and they can get these really great pieces.
It's so valuable, isn't it, to be able to connect with your consumer, because like on a personal level, because then you can totally, use their feedback, for example, and give them exactly what they want. So if you have like an open line of conversation with them, then they might suggest to you like designers that they love, that they want to stock, or different features that help you shape your platform. And I think in this day and age, never before have brands been in such a powerful position, and it's down to social media that they can be that connected with their audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we constantly put out, social posts of, what designers do you want to see? Who should we know? Like, be our ears to the ground. How can we find out new people? One of the other things that we do is, we are connected with, I went to Kingston for my MBA, and they have a great fashion program there. And so we're connected to the fashion students there. There are some great graduates who have come from there, and even up and coming designers. And so we're constantly just kind of looking out for who's there and who's kind of doing what, so that we can always kind of create that connection with people. And so whether it's through a customer or through our own research, but we're just always trying to basically create the best experience we can, and really make that as personalized as we can for our customers, because we know that at the end of the day, like, they want to feel special and unique, and that they're getting an experience that almost feels like a VIP treatment, even if it's not necessarily like exactly what the celebrities are getting. Like, you can feel just about the same.
So when it comes to celebrities and social media, working with kind of like celebrities and influencers has totally overturned traditional advertising.
Yeah.
In a means that, you know, you're advertising, you're working with an influencer or a celebrity, your work with them, your collaboration with them is so much more targeted. Is there a way that Infinite Closet work with influencers or celebrities? Like, do you see the value in that for your business?
Yeah, I do and I don't. So I mean, I come from a marketing background originally. So like I've worked with influencers a lot in different capacities. And absolutely, I think they have such a strong ability to connect with audiences, and they have this following, and they've built this brand even for themselves. And so we do see the value in understanding how to work with them, because obviously they do have a lot of opportunity to be a voice for us and be that sort of that megaphone that we may not necessarily have the same access to. And it is quite interesting in working with them, because obviously there's some big personalities out there, and so you kind of have to always know, like, who actually believes our mission. And I think that's the main point for us is, we can pay anybody to sort of like wear our clothes and be sort of our speaker, but it's more than that for us, in that we want to make sure that, the influencers that we do work with, like, actually share our vision of, they believe in sustainable fashion, they believe in a circular economy, they understand that, these fast fashion brands are not exactly the best people to be shopping with. And so, if we see that there's an influencer who is also working with, Shein, for example, that's up, that's their prerogative. We're not going to, have any issues with that, but that's probably not going to be someone who fits our goals and our values and our ethos. And so, we're very conscientious of the people that we work with and how we want our brand to be reflected to our customers, just as much as we understand that our customers want to see people in our clothes who feel the same way we do.
So what is the future for Infinite Closet? Like, where do you think the future of, rental fashion lies?
It's ever expanding, right? I mean, I think there's so much opportunity in the space right now, and I think it's really, really cool to see so many people getting on board with the concept. We see these other peer-to-peer models that are so interesting, because it's basically like you have your closet that you're now just kind of lending out to other people, and that's a really cool concept. And then you have people like us who, we work directly with our brands, but at the same time, you're getting access to brands that you wouldn't have discovered before. And so, it's a different way of even just like shopping. And I think more and more brands are going to be more aware of the opportunity that comes with renting. We already see that in, brands launching their own rental platforms. And I think what's interesting is going to be really seeing how that plays out. Are people going to start subscribing the same way that we kind of do with, with movie and film services now, where you're going to have 5 different subscriptions to like your clothing platforms, or are you going to find kind of like an all-encompassing one that works with multiple brands? Like, there's different ways to sort of do it. But I think for us, really the goal is just to keep these sort of independent and small businesses true to heart. There obviously is already such a great resource out there for luxury brands and beautiful services for, designer bags and vintage stuff. And those are all amazing. But for us, it's really about being able to support and be that cheerleader for these up and coming designers and these independent brands that kind of doing their own thing. And especially when they're focused on that sustainable and ethical piece of it, we want to be their cheerleaders and their champions and allow customers to access them. And so right now we're obviously only in London. We hope by the end of the year we'll be launching throughout the rest of the UK and being able to sort of continue to just connect with people. And we have a lot of big goals in mind as to how else we can incorporate, sustainability into our platform that we're really excited to roll out and share with everyone at a later date.
Well, it's been so amazing to talk to you and find out more about Infinite Closet. Like, it's such an exciting space within fashion right now, and it's been so brilliant to find out more. And I'm so grateful that you found the time to be able to join me today. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Hannah. It's been so great chatting with you too, and I'm so glad we were able to do this. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, sounds good. Bye. Bye.